Welcome to 5 Minute Math with Coach Sharp. Today we're going to look at two-step equations with division. Okay, so this is the exception to the rule when solving two-step equations. On most of them, you want to start by adding or subtracting first and then multiplying or dividing. Here, in these two problems, you'll notice that both the left side here, number one, is a fraction, and then on the right side, we have a fraction in number two. Okay, so what that means is we have to break this fraction and get rid of it before we can move our 10 in the top or before we can move our 8 in the bottom. Okay, so now make sure if you haven't watched our prior videos solving one-step equations and two-step equations, you do that before we begin, and all these things will build on top of each other. Okay, so let's take a look at number one. So what to do when we have an equation like this or a problem like this, and we need to get rid of this fraction first. Okay, well remember, we want to look at this as we are dividing by 2. Okay, so then, just like in all of our other ones, we want to talk about what is the opposite of dividing by 2. Well, the opposite of dividing by 2 is to multiply by 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to multiply the left side by 2, and then we're going to go on the right side and multiply it by 2. Okay? Now don't forget to draw your line down the equal sign so you can separate your left side from your right side, and it helps you keep your equation balanced. Okay, so now what that does is that's going to eliminate this 2 and that 2 right there. So what you have now done is you have gotten rid of the fraction. Okay, so we have v minus 10 is equal to, and then I'm going to do the math over here of negative 13 times 2, which gives us negative 26. Okay, so this is a little different than the last lesson we did on solving two-step equations, because now we must multiply first before we can add or subtract. So again, like everything in math, this is the exception to the rule. All right, so once you have gotten rid of the fraction, now you've created a one-step equation for yourself. So now we want to get v by itself. So the opposite of subtracting 10 is to add 10 on both sides. So if I add 10 there, I'm going to go ahead and add 10 here. So what that will do is eliminate our 10s here. So now I have v equals, and negative 26 plus 10 is going to give me negative 16. Okay, so now we have successfully solved for v. All right, let's move on over to number two. Number two, the only thing I've done is I've flipped which side my variable is on. So over here, it's on the right, but we're still going to follow the same steps. So the first thing we're going to do is draw a line down the equal sign. Okay, now, just like in number one, this entire right side is a fraction. So we can't just take a number out of the numerator. Okay, we actually have to get rid of the fraction. So we want to look at this as dividing by 3. So the opposite of dividing by 3 is to go and multiply both sides by 3. And if I do it on the right, I must do it on the left. So what that's going to do is eliminate my 3's here on the right. And then I have 3 times 3 on the left. So that gives me 9, so I'll bring that down. And then on the right side, I have 8 plus m. Okay? So we've successfully gotten rid of our fraction. Now we've turned this thing into a one-step equation. So to finally get m by itself, we look at 8. 8 is a positive 8. So the opposite of a positive 8 is a negative 8, or subtract 8. And if I subtract it on the right, I'm also going to go and subtract it on the left. So that helps me cancel these 8's out. 9 minus 8 gives me 1. So I have 1 is equal to m. So now we have successfully solved these two problems for their variables. Okay, again, remember this is the exception to the rule in solving equations. If the entire left side is a fraction or the entire right side is a fraction, the first thing you must do is get rid of the fraction. Okay, so here what we got. We've got 4 problems for you to solve. Okay, so go through, draw your line down the equal sign, solve these things by first multiplying, and then get your variable isolated by itself. Okay? When you're done, check for your answers down in the description below, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thanks.